Okay. The slope of these curves right here, these coexistence curves, depend on delta H and delta V. Delta H, okay, what do you know about delta H? From solid to liquid, what's your delta H? That's fusion, right? Solid to liquid, is it exothermic or endothermic? When you're melting something, do you supply heat or remove heat? You're supplying heat, so endo. Heat has to go into your system in order to melt, right? Generally, when a solid melts, what happens to the volume? Does it expand or contract? When a solid melts, it expands. So delta V is positive. So dP dt, that's basically delta P over delta T. That's the slope, okay, is a positive number for this freezing line, okay? So that's why it's leaning that way. Why is it leaning the other way for water? For water, it actually leans the other way. The slope for water, delta P over delta T, is negative. Why is that? The reason is delta H is still positive, but your delta V, what happens to ice when it melts? Ice actually shrinks when it melts, right? So delta V is negative. Here, if you have a glass of water, fill it to the rim with water and ice. What happens when the ice melts? Will the water overflow? No, because the ice shrinks when it melts. So delta V, the volume drops when ice melts. Okay, so delta H over T delta V, which is the slope, is going to be a negative slope, so it's going to lean this way. So water is the exception. Most solids will expand when you melt them. Okay? Now, why is the slope much steeper for this as opposed to this? The slope of your curve, delta H over T delta V, right? It's steeper for solid going to liquid because your delta V is going to be a very small number. Okay? There's not much of a change in volume when you're going from a solid to a liquid. So a very small denominator would make the whole fraction a much bigger number. So that's a very steep, this is very steep, right? You'll notice this is a very steep curve. Whereas this one is less steep. You have a big change in volume as you go from a solid to a gas or a liquid to a gas. Delta V is going to be a very big number. So that makes your slope very small. So that curve right there is not as steep. Okay? Now your solid gas line is steeper than the liquid gas line. That has to do with the delta H. It takes more energy to change generally from solid to gas than from liquid to gas. So delta H tends to be larger for sublimation than vaporization. So this is steeper than that one.